David,
we're done.
thank you so much indeed
Well, come and try it.
for tuning my favourite possession, which is this beautiful piano. And the great thing about David's tuning, David Pinnegar, his tuning is that not all keys are the same. We think that keys should be the same. Here are a couple of beautiful home keys. He describes it as
Carpet slipper country.
carpet slippers. I like my carpet slippers. But when we go out of the door, if we forget to put our shoes on, B major, not so bad.
You can go skating on ice in B major. Liszt.
Okay,
All those arpeggios.
we'll try that. Next, perhaps the winter after next. David has a grounding in physics. Very good indeed. I had a tiny grounding in physics, nothing like his. And he, in his wonderful house, Hammerwood Hall, has 18 pianos, all tuned in different ways. A couple of them not tuned at all.
Well,
Now-
the important thing about those pianos, it's not just 18. They actually come from different collections, historic collections. So we start off with an instrument of 1802, and then a Broadwood.
Right. Well, show me what's special about the different keys. Just show me how you do it.
From these instruments, we've learned how to tune the modern piano to revisit the classical composers, because Bach was actually exploring the colour of chromaticism in all of the 48 different keys. So here we've got these home keys, as you say. Importantly, we can set up tension in another key, from which we can relax.
Tension, I get it.
Yes.
And that's all about, in music, the travelling from tension to
That's
relaxation.
right. And the other thing we can do is there are so many pianists nowadays who just use the sustaining pedal as a kick drum, but the old pianos very often had bad dampers, and Chopin practiced on what was known as a pantalon without any dampers at all. How? How was the music not a mush? Well, the answer was in resonance, because in that sound, perhaps you can hear la. Perfect. Now, these notes, if one's a brass player, as both Ralph and I have been, these are what are known as the harmonics, and all of these are parts of the sound, parts of the tonality. And if I hold down this note without playing it, there it is, and I play the harmonic notes, oh, they sing.
But if it's not in that key, it doesn't work. Show us it not working in another key.
I'm going to go up a semitone. This is chromatic. Now, being chromatic isn't just about going up a semitone, it's the different colour when we do, because chromatism is colour. So I'm going to play that note, I'm going to press it down without playing it, and I'm going to go on those harmonic series, and the next note isn't going to exist. There, it's died. But all those others we can still hear. So this key has a different tonality, and the Italians call them by different tonalities rather than keys. So listen. Rather, and it's missing that. Whereas when we go down,
So
that has the sweetness.
why
of that
doesn't
essence.
everyone have their pianos tuned like this?
It was a contrick pulled in the 19th century by the German piano manufacturers. They tuned...
What, makers of play like Steinways?
But no, yes, Steinways, Bechsteins, Bluthers, the whole lot. They put Broadwoods out of business.
As
Ralph's-
my great-grandfather knew, because he was in business in London as a piano maker, and he was put out of business by the German piano manufacturers. And here am I buying a German piano. Is it as easy to do it in your way as it is Equal Temperament?
It's easier because we have...
So you could get all music piano tuners doing it like that?
They've become tuning in different ways. Violinists could tune this way because violinists tune to these perfect fifths. And they're used to perfect fifths. Whereas modern piano tuners will listen for that harmonic will get it to coincide with that harmonic from that one, and they'll get those two harmonics to coincide rather than to listen for the beating between these two notes.
Show us a perfect fifth and show us an imperfect fifth, as it were. One that's not quite so beautiful.
Right, so this
Which is the most perfect?
There are 7 perfect fifths.
Show us one of them. That's F to C.
No beats.
Show us a nice, nasty one. One that's not perfect.
Wah, 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 wah. Can you hear that
Yes.
beating? Wah, wah, wah,
Yes.
wah. So this is what's known as a tempered fifth. And this tuning has 5 tempered fifths, and the rest are left pure. And that shifts the notes around a bit so that we have some third, that are really pure.
I love pure thirds, and I try and get them with choirs, so I make them smaller. People all think they've got to do thirds the same as the piano. When we're in a choir, we can sing in whatever key we're in at the time, and we can make it absolutely pure and beautiful.
And these are pure at the expense of some others which are wider.
But we don't mind if they're going to express different things, as they often do.
And in actual fact, that isn't much wider from the thirds that we're used to with the normal tuning. But with this tuning, we have the ones that are very similar to those which we're accustomed to, but we have these others which are beautifully pure. So
and
in jazz,
you hold that Chopin composed in a way that used the beautiful home keys and the more challenging remote keys.
not just Chopin, but Schubert, Beethoven, Mozart, Haydn, they all did. This was the language of classical music, even up to Brahms, and arguably Liszt as well. It was only when you get to Saint-Saëns where you really got everything that was chromatic, and then harps found that the music was so complicated they had to have 2 sets of strings crossed in order to play the semitonal music.
And I think orchestras followed this lead to think that they've got to play equal tempered at certain times. Obviously, the best orchestras don't now, but some of them would have been beguiled by that because they won't have known the physics.
That's right. And in actual fact, when you tune this tuning for use with an orchestra, I did this down in Nice last year, it was amazing. The orchestra they were incredulous because where the instruments cut in was exactly on the same pitch as the pitch on the piano.
Because sometimes it doesn't work. So give me a year when...
In the modern tuning, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But in this tuning, it works
In the year, tell me a year when it really happened. Everybody went towards equal temperament in the 19th century.
From the pianos that I've examined, the pianos of the 1850s and 60s can tolerate the unequal temperament, and they can tolerate it really rather well, whereas when the German pianos came in the 1880s, Bechstein's, for instance, didn't come into London until 1886, and they got the royal appointment, and then Steinway, I think, robbed the royal appointment from them in the 1890s. It wasn't until then when everything was universally as we tune now. But even then, there are people who say, well, the modern method of tuning wasn't actually refined until 1919.
And 2020, David Pinnegar leads the mission back to the old kind of excellent, beautiful tuning, and orchestras all agree that those that are going to play concertos will play with pianos which are tuned beautifully in the way that they love.
Demonstrate us some colour.
Okay, here's C major. A minor. D minor. Getting dangerous, E major. B major. Here's an F sharp major chord. See, it's not that, doesn't really feel out of tune to me in that way. Sounds beautiful to me. And now now let's go back to the home key. Here's B flat.
Now that note before then, just before I started speaking, it just led on edge and it said, I'm leading somewhere, come and follow me.
Ah, yes, because of the seventh.
But it wasn't just because of the fifth seventh, it was because of the intervals within that chord. Now if you go to C sharp major, without going into sevenths, just with the triads, those keys are leading you to return home. They're the remote keys.